Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Natalie Bainey, and I'm with the Marketing, Communications, Recruitment, and Enrollment team here at SHRS or MCRE. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Brian Bayer, although I think most of you know him. He is our communications manager. Brian has worked in several different communications positions within the dean's office since joining SHRS in 2017. During that time, Brian has coordinated the school's adoption of the university's new brand standards. He's worked to launch our school's new brand positioning of bold moves and the development of our school's voice. He has launched several different enterprise systems and platforms like Canva and Canto. These help our many faculty and staff create high quality and consistently branded content. He also reviews and approves promotional materials to ensure that SHRS maintains a strong brand presence. This is just a sliver of Brian's many responsibilities, but I don't want to take up everyone's time, so we'll get things started by turning things over to Brian. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. Today we're going to be talking about how we can elevate our reputation through our brand positioning and through our Pitt brand, where SHRS falls in that Pitt brand. So we just launched our brand positioning video, our Bold Moves video that I'd like to start with here.
We are built on a legacy of academic excellence and innovation, and fueled by passionate educators and researchers, allowing us to meet the healthcare and rehabilitation needs of today and drive meaningful change in the future.
Bold moves have propelled SHRS forward in the past. Bold moves will shape our future. We are a nationally renowned leader in the field of healthcare, education, research, and clinical practice preparation. With 13 different disciplines related to healthcare and rehabilitative care, we shape future generations of healthcare professionals, therapists, counselors, advocates, scientists, providers, and practitioners by training them to serve the needs of all people, regardless of background, levels of health, or mobility.
Through our actions, we know Bold innovates, Bold collaborates, Bold motivates, and Bold connects.
It also stimulates, influences, advances, and transforms.
Bold moves the needle of research, Bold moves us to new and meaningful initiatives, and Bold moves to strengthen our communities.
Together, we work to achieve success and push higher education in new directions. Taking big steps in bold moves, we will ensure SHRS is ready to accept new challenges and ready to lead the way for others to follow.
This video is available for everyone's use. We absolutely encourage you to share it on all of your networks. We just shared it in the SHRS Insider Special Edition that went out last week around the Day of Giving. So you can find it there. It is on our YouTube channel, and you will see us generously sharing this as well, including in the upcoming monthly SHRS Insider, as just a little reminder for everyone. So if you're ever looking to put what we do into words, and if you're having trouble finding those words, this video is a resource for you. But let me take the next 30 minutes or so here to try to give you a perspective on how you can find those words to apply in your own settings. So we're going to start broad with what is a brand? And so when we think of a brand, it's who we are. It's how we identify and how we want others to identify us. It is how we want to be seen and understood by our community. And what we like to think of is it's an intangible asset. So when we think of our tangible assets at SHRS, we have these beautiful labs all across the city, at Bakery Square, Bridgeside Point, all over Oakland and Southside. We have this excellent faculty and staff, and there are human resources. And then we have curricula that push each discipline into uncharted territory that we are actively charting every day. But those are all our tangible assets, right? Those are the things that we can point to and say concretely, this is what we're doing, or this is where we are. But when someone says, what is SHRS, or who is SHRS, or wherever your department or program falls within SHRS, how do we answer that question? because we're not just labs around Pittsburgh or just teachers and students or innovative plans of study. That's what goes into who we are, but who are we? That is what our brand is, and our brand positioning is here to answer those questions for us. Finding our answers to those questions isn't easy, but it is important. And that's why our MCRE team at SHRS, the Marketing Communications Recruitment and Enrollment, like Natalie mentioned, and the University Communications team has spent so much energy trying to breathe life into these concepts. So you might think it's important for the marketing communications team to know all of this, but what's it to me? You know, we've got people here on this call who are coming from all around the university, or all around the school rather. And you might be thinking, what, how does this apply to me? Well, you're here, so I'm guessing that you at least are curious about that. You want to know a little bit more about the brand. And the thing is, SHRS is everywhere, and we're doing everything. Our faculty and students are in clinics literally around the world. They're in operating rooms and PCP offices and running their own businesses, and in machine shops and audiology booths and in wet labs and on athletic fields and in schools. We have 7 departments that are home to over 30 programs that are at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral levels, spanning 13 disciplines, plus all of the initiatives we do as a school, like social justice, community engagement, innovation. With all that's going on, it is vitally important that we uphold our brand identity via consistent messaging and imagery. It's that kind of unity that will allow people to recognize us no matter where we are or what we're doing. So let's think of a few examples of brands that are immediately recognizable and what you think of when you see their logo. And this is interactive. It's not just going to be the Brian show. So any ideas of brands that you think of with their logos or imagery associated with brands? You can just shout it out. This is my drinking coffee time. So,
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Imagery associated with Coca-Cola? Colors? Look? Probably, I think everybody
It's the
thinks of red and
Coca-Cola
white.
font, yeah, and the red and white.
That Coca-Cola font's really recognizable too. It's not something that you'll find in your standard font libraries. You can't just easily replicate it. Same with like the Disney fonts, right? Maybe think of a polar bear enjoying a nice cold Coke. Yeah, absolutely. Did I hear another brand out there?
There are lots of them in the chat, Brian. Disney, Adidas, McDonald's, Nike, Target, Starbucks, Google.
Oh, great. Sorry, I do not have the chat up. Um, so excellent. I think we all know what kind of imagery is associated with those, and those are brands that are doing a great job. And actually, one of those brands is one that we want to spotlight as kind of an exemplary model. So that's Starbucks. Almost everyone recognizes their logo immediately upon seeing it, like many of the other brands that were mentioned there. Thank you. Thank you for being that moderator, Natalie. And when you see that logo, you know exactly what to expect. You know, they have defined, or perhaps a better way to say it is redefined, the coffee shop experience. Uh, yeah, you're gonna get a decent coffee. People are all over the place on whether they like or dislike Starbucks coffee, and we know it's gonna be at a premium price. But no matter where you go, you know you're going to find a relaxing atmosphere where you can work or study. You're going to get a variety of flavors and a unique service experience, to the point that people even joke about how the baristas will probably get your name wrong, or that people each have their own unique Starbucks order. You know, you're not just getting a regular coffee, but you're getting the tall cafe americano. And they lean into this. They know their brand. They own it. And we want to own our brand too. And how we can all play a part in owning that brand and where we at SHRS fall in that brand is what we're hoping you'll be able to take away from this. So let's first take a look at the much bigger picture, which is the Pitt brand. This is the singular brand that we all adhere to, no matter what our role is, no matter where we work within the school. We are a university committed to forging ahead. Leaders and innovators in our respective fields, committed to constantly searching, discovering, and reinventing because we know that progress never comes from standing still. So this is straight from our university's brand website that I'm going to flash up on the screen in a few minutes here, but that website is brand.pitt.edu, and we can find what we have excerpted here. And it's this positioning that says this is how we want to be thought of in the minds of our most important audiences. It's not what we are or how we express it. It's about what we want people to remember when they walk away. So the University of Pittsburgh community is fueled by preeminent leaders, educators, thinkers, and healers who are challenging the conventional frontiers of knowledge to build a better future for humankind. That answers our who, what, how, and why with this unifying theme of reinvention. And if you do want more information, there are, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, literally hundreds of pages of guides and resources and reference materials on this website, brand.pitt.edu. And of course, you can always reach out to our MCRE team for any quick questions about the brand. We are like crazy excited to talk about this. Like, you would think that it's strange how much we like to talk about branding. So you can always reach out to us for any reference questions that you have. We do not expect that you're going to read every single line on brand.pitt.edu, but we have, and we want to make it easy for you to follow. So if you ever have a question, feel free to reach out to us, or you can bet that you will find your answer somewhere on brand.pitt.edu. So where does SHRS fall within that Pitt brand? We know that at Pitt, progress is always in progress, and we definitely embody that. Even when we're working on what's going on now, we are thinking about what's next. You've probably seen these phrases, progress is always in progress, forge ahead. That is definitely true for SHRS as well, but that is something that the university says that we should all be doing at Pitt, that we absolutely embrace. But when we're a school that does so much, how can we zoom in even closer on our brand? To our partners, prospective and current students, researchers, faculty, staff, alumni, and everyone we work with. Those are just a few of our audiences. So that's why we need this brand position, which is our statement that conveys the essence of a brand, how it looks, sounds, and acts. It is an authentic and ownable stance, a position that can claim a stake in the market. It should differentiate our brand from our competitors, unify its ambassadors. That's all of you, that's all of our students. That's hopefully our prospective students who are going to come in and embrace this. And it should inspire our customers. That's other stakeholders that we have. This is our brand positioning. So why do we need this brand position? We've got this really strong Pitt brand, and it is a really strong brand. If you remember, like 5 years ago, we didn't necessarily have that much of a skeleton to it. And a lot of people were in different places doing their own thing. And that's when the university said, we really need this strong brand. And they gave it to us. They gave us this really great unifying vision for the entire university. So why does SHRS need to zoom in on that? Well, it differentiates us from the competition. It demonstrates our continued innovation and progress to serve as a reminder of our legacy as a leader in our fields of expertise. And again, this is really one of the big takeaways that we hope you have, is that it unifies the way we communicate. And that is where we land with bold moves. Hopefully, you all recognize this tagline. This was the video that I shared at the beginning of this presentation. We officially launched the Bold Moves positioning almost exactly a year ago. And just a few weeks ago, like I mentioned, we did send out that special edition insider. We worked with a marketing agency to really nail down our brand positioning, and this is one of the big things that we walked away with from that collaboration. And this is available on our SharePoint site. So I want to encourage everybody to check out the faculty and staff resources and to look at what we have curated there. But I am going to take a minute to read through this because while I don't like to read exactly from slides, I do want to point out that this is the kind of text that we welcome everyone to share. Just like you can share the video, you're absolutely welcome to share this text. You're not plagiarizing, you're embracing. So what we've come up with is this. Throughout our 51-year history, SHRS has achieved one success after another, pushing higher education in new directions. In the past, we have advanced our programs and developed best practices to treat individuals with disabilities. Today, we continue to accept new challenges such as embracing distance learning, building a more diverse student body, and developing new models of interprofessional education. We do so with courage and confidence in a supportive and collaborative environment that often leads the way for others to follow. And if you look at this next part, that I'm going to stop here and not read it, but this is exactly what we have in the video as well, because we want to be ambassadors of this from the MCRE position. We want to demonstrate that we are buying in to what we are asking you to participate in. We believe that we have this great positioning here. So when we say Bold innovates, Bold connects and transforms and advances and influences, that's because we truly believe it, and we want you to believe it as well, and we want you to communicate that. That is part of that unified communications front that we are really hoping that everybody can get behind. So that brings us back to logos. And when we look at this chart, you're going to see a lot of different versions of logos. But try to think of it in this wonderful grid that Natalie has set up for us, that we can see it rather simply put. So if you look across the top, we've got the official logo, the formal school logos, and the informal school logos. And we're just going to break at this line here for now. We'll go into the Pitt script and the Panther in a moment. But looking just at the top portion of this matrix here, with the official logo, that is for University of Pittsburgh official use only. If you're wondering if you should use it, the answer is almost universally no, you shouldn't. This is the kind of thing that will end up on the students' diplomas when they get them. This is the kind of thing that ends up on official university communications from the highest levels. That is not something that the schools are encouraged or even technically permitted to use at will. So this is the official university logo. If you're using any version of this seal, you're probably diverging from the official brand of the University of Pittsburgh and how you're supposed to be using this identity mark. What we can use are our formal and informal marks, and we'll call them a lot of different things. We'll call them identity marks, logos, but when we refer to anything like that, we're talking about our specific logos. And so we have what we call the shield logo because it has the shield. Notice the difference between the shield logo and the crest. This is important. We do not have a crest around it. It is simply a shield. And if you pay attention, you'll see that even the shield itself is a new version of the shield. It's very modern. It doesn't have the lines in the middle. And so, you know, pay attention to that when you're creating your resources. It has this kind of setup here with the University of Pittsburgh and then the school name below it, or in the cases of departments and programs, we have the department and program bolded with the school name underneath it. This is for external audiences. Anytime you're putting together resources that are going to people in the community, wherever that community is, people who might not know what Pitt SHRS is, but they can definitely identify the University of Pittsburgh, that's where we want to be using this university's shield logo. If we have internal audiences or partners across the different schools within Pitt, maybe you're collaborating with pharmacy or public health. You can use our word mark. We call this our word mark logo or our informal logo. This just says Pitt SHRS. It spells out the name, and then again, if you are in department or program, it will have that beneath it or perhaps to the right of it. And I'll talk about where you can find these closer towards the end of the presentation. So these are our marks, and it's really important that we follow where and when to use these on our materials. And this is great for academic uses, and that is mostly what we do, right? We're a school, so we should be sticking mainly to these logos, the formal and informal identity marks. You will see the Pitt script used primarily by athletics, but we are allowed to use it on promotional items. That being said, all promotional items do need to be approved by our team, just to make sure that we are being consistent, because there are a lot of rules that go into how licensing allows us to use the logos. And then the Panther uh, looks super cool. And wouldn't it be great if we could use it? But we can't. Sorry, it's only for athletics. That's a hard line that they draw. That is exclusively for athletics. So if you're putting the Panther on something, you're probably not supposed to be. So those are our logos, and there's going to be a time at the end to ask some questions, but I am going to keep moving for now in the interest of time. So we're going to come back to our Starbucks logo, and this is going to be an example of what we strive for, but we're not quite at Starbucks level yet. So what you will never see with Starbucks is a distorted logo or a pixelated logo, something that is obsolete perhaps with color schemes that aren't their current color schemes, or something that is their current logo, but then, hey, somebody went and set up something beneath it, a different setup. That's what we really want to ensure as well, is that we're not coming up with all of these different variations of what SHRS could be. And we're realistic. We understand that these are out there. We know that we've had a lot of logos over the years, and we know that these still show up on Google image searches here and there, depending on what your search terms are, and perhaps some old materials. We know that a lot of people have file systems where you just store things that you've accumulated across the years, perhaps across the decades. And you might have a folder that says logos where you have one of these logos. And this isn't an exhaustive list of all of the types of logos that we've had even in the past 5 years. So let me take this opportunity to say, this is the time to clean house. Delete these old logos, throw them in your digital garbage can, and light them on Metafire. We don't want to see these anymore. This is not Pitt. It is not SHRS. If you are using one of these logos, you're going rogue. We don't want the khaki gold. We do not want that navy blue. We do have a legacy color scheme that you're allowed to use that I'm going to go over in a few minutes, that you're absolutely welcome to use if you're looking for a different tone, but this isn't it. This shield you can see or this crest is very different than the one that I had on this 2 slides ago. You can see that this Pitt SHRS is not the current setup. This compass logo is not something we use. If you have Pitt in a box, we are not boxed. Take Pitt out of that box. We do not want to be confined. So if you have any of these logos, or if you see any of these logos, or if you're working with someone in your department and you see this appear, say, whoa, pump the brakes. This isn't us. You need to be an ambassador of the brand that we're talking about here. Anytime you have a question or you're putting together promotional products or merchandise, please send it to us for review and approval. We want to support you, and one of the ways we can do that is by making sure your materials uphold our brand. Honestly, our brand is pretty spiffy. It looks sharp. It's really easy to come up with something like a mug or a t-shirt or a pen and just use the approved logo sets that we have. They look good. You don't need to be that creative. And so if you just are using your logo like we have here in this example, it's going to be a good promotional product, and we're going to be able to approve it really quickly. So we do ask that you bring us into that process. That just helps us all stay on the same page. So in terms of designing your own materials, we really do want you to be able to use the brand autonomously. And so I'm going to spend the last few minutes here going over how you can build your own materials within the Pitt brand and the SHRS brand positioning. And everything that I'm going over here is on the brand.pitt.edu website. I really want to champion that website because they've done a great job setting everything up. So you can always find this there. But like I said, it's a lot of information that we've tried to condense into a short amount of time to make it digestible for everyone on this call and everyone across the school. So the first thing that we want to look at are our brand fonts. We have official brand fonts. These are the premium fonts that the university has encouraged us to use as much as possible. Our header font is Rubik 1. Our subhead font is Open Sans. You're also welcome to use Open Sans Bold. And then our body copy font is Merriweather. You can be flexible with how you apply those. If you want to switch these two, or if you want to have Open Sans bold as your header and then Open Sans unbolded as your subhead without Rubik 1, that's fine too. If you want to omit Merriweather, or if you want to use Merriweather because it might be for a poster that you're putting together and you want that more serif text look to it, then you're absolutely welcome to do that. So we are flexible in how you apply these fonts, but we do ask that you try to stick to these fonts as much as you can. The university and we at SHRS acknowledge that these fonts are not available on all platforms. Microsoft, for example, does not have these in their standard font library. So if you are designing something in Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, then we do have font alternatives to these brand fonts. And so the header font would be Arial Black, the subhead would be Arial, and then the body copy would be Times New Roman. We do ask that you stick to these 6 fonts as much as you can, and try to keep them in this library. So in Canva, these premium fonts are already loaded into our brand kit that we have. So if anybody's using Canva, or if anybody's interested in coming onto our Canva space, you'll be able to find these very easily. And then these are default options in the Microsoft suite as well. If you're diverging from these fonts, it might seem small to you, but imagine, like we said at the beginning of this presentation, 7 departments, over 30 programs, and that's just at SHRS. If everybody is using the font that they think is pretty, then it's going to start to look very, very disparate across all of our materials, and that is not what we want. It's about that unity. So please do try to stick to these brands. The same with these colors. We have an ample color palette. We have colors to meet whatever needs you're going for, whatever look you want. We just ask that you stay on this color palette and don't go too far off book when you're designing your materials. Again, if you're working in Canva, we do have all of these loaded into our Canva enterprise space. So I can talk a little bit about that at the end of the presentation if you're interested in coming into our Canva space. But we have our primary palette, which is our blue and gold that you'll see here. We have accent palettes, which are these 2 rows of colors here, a rich palette and a vibrant palette. So you might see if you want something to pop, or if you want something to have a little bit more weight to it visually, you can use the rich palette, or alternatively the vibrant one. We're welcome to use contrast palettes like blacks, whites, and grays. Those are approved. So if you find the need to do something in black and white, then you're allowed to use that as well. The big thing that we at SHRS want to emphasize, and that we hope every other school also pays attention to, is visual accessibility. And in this case, when we're looking at colors, visual accessibility refers to keeping things in high contrast. We want to make sure that if somebody with low contrast vision is looking at our materials, they're not going to have trouble reading reading what we've put together. So that means, keeping our golds and whites on dark backgrounds. They contrast excellently with blue, and that was intentional. Keeping our dark colors like our blues on the lighter backgrounds, so maybe a white background or a gold background. That's really important. We don't want it to look like those number tests that they made us do in high school where, there's a bunch of dots on the page and they're like, what number do you see? That's not what we're going for with our color scheme. We don't want to see whether or not people can identify our materials. We want people to be able to see everything that we put on the page. And so making sure that we're being visually accessible is super important. And we do try to coach everyone through this process. We have become pros on identifying accessibility issues in the digital space. So if you ever do have a question, again, our MCRE team is here for you. In terms of the feel, you'll probably recognize a lot of these elements. All of these elements are available in our Canva enterprise space, and they are available on the brand.pitt.edu website for download with transparent backgrounds in the case of some of these elements. They break it down into two general fields. We have this urban look and we have the modern look. You're welcome to use either one of them. You're welcome to mix and match as appropriate. Um, we'll defer to your judgment. And then, of course, we're always willing to collaborate on design with your teams if you're looking for a little bit more expertise in these areas. The urban feel is meant to reflect that grit that the Pitt brand positioning embraces. So when we think about our city, we know that we are a city that has come from steel mills. We know that we're a city that can be a little bit rough around the edges and that it takes hard work and that we're the people who are willing to put in that hard work. And we do want to reflect that that gritty, tough past that Pittsburgh has. We are the University of Pittsburgh. That is absolutely a part of who we are. You walk around the trails around the city, and you'll see the slag piles around Frick Park, or the blast furnaces on the Eliza. I think it's called the Eliza Trail. Um, but you'll see that history that Pittsburgh is very proud to have, and the University of Pittsburgh absolutely wants to recognize that as well. And that is why we have these urban textures, and uh, and they are meant to evoke something um, very deep within people's emotions about what University of Pittsburgh is trying to represent. But then we also have this modern palette. We're proud of our past, but we're looking towards the future. We have these arrows that are pointing to the right. They're looking towards a progressive future. We are a city that went through a renaissance. We are built on steel, but we are currently that meds and ed city that everybody is so proud of. We've got this unrivaled healthcare system that we at the University of Pittsburgh are absolutely supporting. We are leading the way in education. We have technology all across this city. And this modern look is something that we also really want to represent in our materials. We want to tell people that we are forward looking. So these elements are absolutely elements that you should be leaning on in your design to evoke that same emotional response. In terms of the pictures you use, we do not want this kind of picture on the right. We do not want to tell people that we have all the time in the world to stop and line up in two rows and smile at the camera. No, we don't. We are working. We have our eyes on the microscopes. We have our hands on people's backs, helping them to regain their mobility. We are in the labs. We are in the communities. We're doing the work that needs to be done. So don't ask me to stop and smile for a picture. We are moving ahead. Progress never stands still. That's part of the brand that Pitt encourages, and that is absolutely something that I think everyone on this call can identify with at SHRS. So when you're looking for the picture to use, if possible, use the picture of SHRS in action. We have this fantastic library that I'm going to talk about in a moment, and we have all of these pictures of people in our school doing things with their hands in action, with their eyes focused on their subject. So try to lean away from the picture on the right here and lean into the picture on the left. You know, this picture that shows action. Ultimately, we want to be bold. We are the ones moving boldly. We've mentioned what bold can do. Bold is what moves that needle of progress, right? Bold is what questions the answers when we're the ones who came up with the original questions. And so all of your materials visually should reflect that kind of bold design. We want designs that really move because we know that bold moves us. We want bold to move our stakeholders too, our audiences. We want prospective students to feel that they are being moved by our boldness. We want research partners to feel that by partnering with us, they are partnering with an organization that is not afraid to be bold and to take this to a different level that other partners might not take it to, that donors, that different people, different foundations who are going to trust us with their money can feel that their money is going to go way further than it could anywhere else because we are going to hold that are going to hold that close to our heart and be bold with how we innovate. And so make sure your materials are really conveying that boldness, that bold moves that we are trying to push when you're writing, not just for social media, but obviously marketing and communications, this is close to our heart. Um, we don't want to just write drab sentences. You know, in that original invitation email that I sent out, I said we're going to go from boring to scoring. This whole congratulations to a professor who did something somewhere. Okay, we've got faculty members and students and staff doing amazing things all the time. Our alumni are on fire. If we just said congratulations to everyone, that would get boring real quick. There's nothing bold about congratulating people. But if we can say what it is they are doing to be bold right at the beginning, if we can start to think with that bold moves mindset in terms of how are our actions being a catalyst for change, that's where people are going to really engage with us. So it's not congratulations to this person who did this thing. It's that, you know, the second one here, interprofessional practice is at the heart of effective healthcare. And the University of Pittsburgh Physical Therapy Associate Professor Andrea Hergenroder will be applying her clinical and educational experience in her new role as the director of the Pitt Interprofessional Center for Health Careers. This is an old post. This is from like a year ago, of course. This is a real post though. This tells us what is bold about this. It's not just saying, "Oh, she did something that doesn't really impact me." That's telling me as a person who is not a physical therapist that by Andrea Hergenroder's work, who I may have never met before. I don't know who this person is, or I don't know what Pitt PT is, but I know that her emphasis on interprofessional practice is going to help me someday as a patient, perhaps, or me as a clinician working with different professions. So we really want to lean into the why are we making bold moves. You're welcome to use any of our bold hashtags. Even if they're not hashtags, we still encourage you to use this language in your own materials. And finally, to conclude, where can you find some of these amazing resources that I've mentioned? pitshrs.canto.com. All you need to do is click on that login using SSO button and you'll be able to access, at this point, I believe it is over 34,000 assets. And I do want to take a brief moment to tip my hat to Joe Ruffing. I believe he's on this call and he has been a great partner in us establishing this, what's called a digital asset management system. And I think probably about 16,000 of those assets that I mentioned have been uploaded by Joe, and his team in rehabilitation science and technology. But we really do have tens of thousands of pictures on Canto. Um, it is our Google image search, if you will. It is a great place to find a picture of people in action, and it's also a great place to find our logos. We have made Canva, or Canto rather, extremely, extremely searchable. So if you're looking for an updated logo, please do not Google your logo. Please do not go to your search engine and type in audiology logo. What we want you to do is go to Canto and type in exactly what you're looking for. We've tagged it by color. We've tagged it by whether it's an informal logo or a formal logo. We've tagged it whether it's a shield or a word mark. You can really enter any combination of text that you're looking for, and I feel very confident that you will get the logo you're looking for. So this search that you can see here is for the Audiology Shield logo white. If you wanted to search for Pitt SHRS wordmark logo blue, you could do that as well, or just SHRS wordmark. You'll get the results that you want. And so we have them all in Canto. I really encourage everyone to go to pitshrs.canto.com, bookmark it. We are constantly uploading and tagging new resources for you, and everyone at our school already has an account just by using the SSO sign-in. So you don't have to actually create an account or anything. Every department across our school has people who have been trained in Canto, who know how to upload assets. You might have even been asked by people in your department to um, to give them assets that they can upload. Assets are things like pictures or videos. So our library is always growing. It is a resource that will be around for years. It is something where we can curate pictures even after people leave. We can find pictures of, for example, when our founding dean, Ann Pascasio, passed away, we were looking to do a memorial for her, and we were looking to find pictures of her in action. The facial recognition in Canto was able to identify about 50 pictures of her for us to use in her memorial. And so it really is a powerful resource that we're constantly building out, and it has all of our brand elements. It has Zoom backgrounds like the one that I'm using right now. It has a lot of other Zoom backgrounds. It has our logos. It has all of the brand materials that I mentioned before. So we really do encourage you to check out Canto as well. And so that is our brand. That is our brand positioning. That is who we want to be. That is who we want you to tell others that we are. And we hope that you feel that it is a brand that is kind of made to order. It is one size fits all, because SHRS has been in this space. We have been since before we were even founded. You know, we have always been the people leading the way. So we are putting a name to it. We are putting a structure to it, but the essence of our brand positioning has always been here, and that is who we are.